Many countries around the world, including Africa, are pooling resources to improve their socio-economic landscape. Zambia is no exception to this route for development and socio-economic transformation. Realizing the importance of planning the development agenda of the country, President Edgar Lungu established the Ministry of National Development Planning in 2015 to coordinate the country's development process.
What the Ministry of National Development Planning does is that it provides the investment direction in terms of coming up with the fundamental areas of investment for the country. And from the 7th National Development Plan, the number one pillar, which is pillar number 1, and deals with economic diversification and job creation. And in there, we have provided the policy direction in terms of what government wants to do in the area of energy diversification, infrastructure development, manufacturing, and enhancement of the value chain.
In addition, the ministry coordinates the country's interventions on climate change effects.
We are tackling climate change or combating climate change from 2 dimensions. There is the adaptation process, which basically deals with minimizing the disruption of livelihoods that are arising as a result of climate change variability. Mitigation deals with reducing carbon emissions, coming up with investments that will ensure that the impact of climate change is minimized.
The Ministry of National Development Planning has several departments which play crucial roles in helping the ministry achieve its mandate. The Department of Development Planning coordinates the development of policies, plans, and programs to promote equitable and sustainable development.
The department has quite a number of roles that it plays within the Ministry of National Development Planning. One of the key roles is that of developing the development agenda of the country. That is currently what we have is the 7 NDP, so we do develop national development plans. The other aspect which we develop is, apart from the medium-term plans like the 7 NDP, we also develop the long-term vision of the plan. We also do coordinate the structures that have been put in place to ensure that implementation of national development plans take place. We also play a role in coordinating climate change issues as demanded by the national policy on climate change. Further, we also do play a role in terms of looking at proposals that go to the GCF. Actually, the Department of Development Planning chairs a technical committee that looks at those proposals.
The National Designated Authority, NDA, has become key in the country's national development planning process due to its central role in tackling climate change effects. As a project office within the national development planning process, the NDA is a main liaison between Zambia and the Green Climate Fund, GCF, the largest global financier for climate change programs.
Climate Fund has resources available to plow into project proposals in adaptation and mitigation. And for any country to access those funds, we need to form what is called the NDA. And in our case, the NDA is the national planning, is a development planning department under the Ministry of National Development Planning. And this is the NDA. However, this is operationalized through a project office called the NDA. So we are secretariat to the ministry to ensure that there is an efficient proposal development process in terms of receiving, processing, and forwarding to the GCF and other funds. So that's what we do as NDA.
The NDA seeks to raise more funds for climate change interventions in the country and has already mobilized over 84 million United States dollars in grants at a first attempt.
And in the past 1 year, we have achieved 2 project proposals that have been approved by the GCF. One is in renewable energy and one is in agriculture. Now, for you to develop a proposal, you need the client and what are called accredited entities. In this case, for example, Ministry of Agriculture deals with UNDP to take a proposal to the GCF, and we issue the letter of no objection, having looked at the proposal. So we have achieved 2. One was worth 137 million. This is in agriculture, livelihoods, and the other one is worth $141 million, which is in renewable energy. So then going forward, what are we looking at? We have we have what we call a pipeline. And in it is both short and medium term, and to some extent long term. In the medium term, what we expect in the next 2 or 3 board meetings is that we'll be able to mobilize hopefully about 300 to 400 million. And we think this is a good figure to look at in comparative terms, because as you are aware, in terms of access to the GCF, so far only 74 projects have been developed, rather approved. And as Zambia, I think in terms of how much we have accessed from the GCF in terms of the aggregate, we stand only second to Egypt.
Like in any organization, the Human Resource Unit plays a key role in developing human resource with right skills and performance levels to drive the NDA activities.
Government provides a lot of resources, but the most critical resource is the human resource, so to say. My role is to ensure that there's effective utilization of the human resource in order to ensure that the set objectives for the NDA are achieved.
Understanding the complexities of climate change and its effects on the livelihood and way of life of people is cardinal in developing appropriate intervention programs.
In general, we have to say that the climate change actions that we propose should fall within the policies and the regulations of the country. What type of activities do we promote? Those that probably we term bring about what we call a paradigm shift. They can be replicated, they are catalytic in nature, they grow and sustainable in nature. And also those actions that have core benefits from the economy's point of view, we can say we want actions that, let's say, create jobs. We want actions that, let's say, have the net present value that is positive from the economy's point of view. These are actions that should bring about technology development and transfer, not forgetting our indigenous knowledge. So we promote all those activities to fight climate change effects.
People have ideas, very good ideas, but how to put them on paper, to package it in such a way that they are appealing to the funders. Usually, donors are a bit skeptical. They will usually want to see a very good idea put on paper and well supported. So what we've seen is, so far we've received quite a lot of concepts. A lot of people have applied. Whenever calls are made, usually receive a lot of concepts. But I don't know how we could help people to capacity build them in writing proper concepts. So they may have the ideas, but packaging it in a good proposal that gets appealing to funders is a major challenge.
The NDA has specialized officers to guide the private and public sectors in developing concept papers for funding to address climate change effects in the country.
We ensure that the proposals that come are in line with the government priorities. So we look at the policies in place, like the 7th National Development Plan and the National Policy on Climate Change.
So as the projects are submitted, they're submitted through the PS's office, through to the NDA, to the National Coordinator. And once they're submitted, there's a technical committee that sits down to review the projects.
Prudent management of financial resources is cardinal in building and sustaining donor confidence in the implementation of programs as well as activities in order for the NDA to carry out its mandate.
As an accountant, my role is basically to ensure that the donor requirements are adhered to and reports are prepared in a timely manner. Coming with the government resources, financial reports are also prepared in a timely manner, which are usually verified and audited by the Office of the Auditor General.
The NDA also makes sure that projects being implemented are useful and beneficial to affected communities.
We more like sieve through, and in the process of sieving, we do these spot monitoring checks, and after we also conduct the assessment. Those proposals which we think have the potential, either they have made it through in terms of being packaged, or we think that they can be packaged according to the technical committee recommendations, we conduct those monitoring or spot visitations, others would call them. So we go throughout the country and just to verify that what we are being told is not just on paper, but it's on the ground.
The generation and dissemination of information on effects of climate change and appropriate interventions is cardinal in stimulating private and public sector support in order for people to make informed decisions.
Climate change affects everybody, and it's up to each and every one of us to do something. Climate change issue, it's a global issue, and it cannot only be left to policymakers or the government or even other private sector. We have recognized the importance of the media as NDA. That's why we work in collaboration with the media to try and bring them closer so that they can understand the issues of climate change, because they are also key partners in this, so that they can and they are able to communicate effectively to the public.
My responsibility at NDA is to provide a full-time, high-level technical and special support to the Office of the National Coordinator. I'm responsible for the day-to-day administrative works for the organization. I ensure that schedules, programs, activities for the organizations are fixed to ensure a smooth operation of the organization. So the Office of the National Coordinator is open to everybody. So for those that want to get any information on how to get the funds, they can come in and see us. We'll gladly help them.
While climate change has become a pressing socio-economic issue in the country, the NDA is positioned to coordinate financing and programming to combat climate change.